On a rainy night, the doorbell kept ringing. She was outside, drenched, clutching a child tightly to her chest. "Call me Daddy." Her voice trembled as she spoke to the little girl, feverish and dazed. I stood frozen at the door, the steam from my instant noodles stinging my eyes. When we broke up, it was so humiliating that I didn't even know she existed. The medical bills wiped out most of my savings. And now, the child's feverish little hand clutched my finger as he mumbled, The photo Mommy was looking at." She turned her face away, afraid to look at me. The rain hitting the window sounded like beans popping. I had just lifted the lid off my instant noodles when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a corner of clothing soaked through, pressed under the cold porch light. I didn't open the door. This house is in the Oak Bay community, in a remote spot. Not many people know about it. The doorbell rang again, insistently, one chime after another, mixing with the sound of the rain, somewhat forlorn. I frowned and opened a crack. Wind, carrying rain spatters, rushed in first. Then I saw her, Sophia. I almost didn't recognize her. Her hair stuck to her cheeks from the damp, her face frighteningly pale, her clothes completely soaked, outlining an excessively thin frame. She was clutching something tightly in her arms, wrapped in the same soaked coat. "Ethan." Her voice was hoarse, torn open by the wind and rain. My hand was still on the doorknob. I didn't let go. Something wrong? She and I hadn't seen each other in 3 years. It wasn't exactly a dignified split. Her eyes were blank, devoid of expression. She only held that bundle in her arms more tightly. The bundle stirred, revealing a small face, flushed and pink, eyes closed, long wet eyelashes. It was a child about 2 or 3 years old. My heart sank. The steam from the instant noodles rose up, and it felt a bit stifling. She looked up at me, her lips trembling, not from the cold, but with the kind of quiver that comes from forcing something down. "Call me Dad," she said softly to the child in her arms. The child hadn't opened his eyes, probably asleep or ill. A buzz went off in my head, as if a string had snapped. The motion-activated light in the stairwell suddenly went out. In the dark, there was only the sound of rain and her suppressed breathing. The light came on again. I was still frozen at the door. She stepped forward and handed over the child, clumsy, as if she had used up all her strength. "Your daughter," she said. "Ethan, look at her." The cup noodle lump sat on the table, the steam already dying down. The child was on my sofa, wrapped in my dry towel, still asleep, her little face flushed bright red. Sophia stood at the side, twisting her fingers, her nails digging into the flesh. "What's going on?" I heard my voice come out dry. She didn't look at me, staring at the child. "High fever for 2 days. Not going to the hospital?" "Went. Ran out of money." She spoke slowly, word by word, squeezing each out from her throat. "Took the medicine, but it didn't help." I took a breath. My lungs felt a little cold. "Mine." She finally turned to look at me. There were some bloodshot veins in her eyes, and something I couldn't read, very heavy. "What else? When was it born?" "After we broke up. I found out 4 months later." I did the math. That was right after our worst fight yet. She slammed the door and left, never coming back. Her number was blocked, and every way to contact her was cut off. "Why didn't you say anything?" She tugged at the corner of her mouth, part smile, part not. She said what? Say congratulations on becoming a father? Or say, do you want to come and see? "Ethan, you didn't want to see me back then, I know." The voice-activated light went out again. I didn't turn it on. In the darkness, her voice was a little softer. "I didn't come looking for you. This time, there's really no other way." The child suddenly hummed, very softly like a kitten. She immediately lunged forward, flustered, feeling his forehead with her hand. "We have to go to the hospital." I said, "I'll go now." She didn't move. "I have no money." "Edo." I picked up the car keys, walked to the sofa, and intended to hold the child. She instinctively blocked me, her arms stretched out in front of the child like a startled mother beast. I looked at her, and she slowly lowered her hand. I bent down and carefully lifted that warm, wriggling little body into my arms. Very light, frighteningly soft, and abnormally warm. Somewhere in my chest tightened suddenly. Sophia was following behind me, her steps a little light. I parked downstairs. The rain had grown heavier. I handed the child to her, took off my coat and draped it over the child's head, then ran toward the parking spot. The car came. She stood under the canopy holding the child, as thin as a sheet of paper. Got in the car, turned the heater to full blast. On the way to the hospital, no one spoke. Only the sound of the wipers swiping back and forth, and the child's quick, anxious breathing. Waiting at the red light, I glanced at her profile. Taut, her mouth pressed downward, staring at the road blurred by rain, but her eyes were unfocused. Registration. Emergency, the doctor examined. Viral flu led to pneumonia. Hospitalization was required. I went to pay and swiped $5,000. When I returned, the nurse was injecting the child. The child cried, voice weak, little arms and legs kicking. Sophia held her down, hair hanging down, covering her face. The nurse was a bit anxious. Hold her still. Don't move. I went over and helped hold down that small, feverish arm. The needle went in, and the child screamed as if his heart were being torn apart. Sophia suddenly turned her face away, her shoulders tensing. After securing the needle and pulling the blanket up, the child, exhausted from crying, sobbed himself to sleep. The hospital room smelled strongly of disinfectant. Sophia sat on the chair by the bed, her back straight, watching the medicine drip drop by drop through the infusion tube. Have you eaten? I asked her. She shook her head, gave no response, as if she hadn't heard. I went downstairs and bought a bowl of porridge and 2 buns at the little shop by the hospital entrance. I took them up and shoved them into her hands. Eat. She looked at the food, then at me, and didn't move. Still have to take care of the child. You want to collapse? Only then did she slowly pick up the spoon, scoop a mouthful of porridge, and bring it to her lips, chewing mechanically. After 2 bites, she put it down and reached to touch the child's forehead again, still burning. The medicine doesn't work that fast, I said. She hummed, withdrew her hand, and went back to staring absent-mindedly at the bowl of porridge. I leaned against the wall, watching that little thing on the hospital bed. Light eyebrows, a slightly flat nose, just like I was when I was a child. My heart was in turmoil. What's your name? Nora Johnson. Her voice was very low. You're Johnson. Nora Johnson. Johnson. My throat tightened, and I had trouble catching my breath. Who named him? Me. She didn't look at me again. She reached out and very gently brushed the stray hair off the child's forehead. That was... Right then, in the latter half of the night, the fever finally subsided a bit. Sophia was asleep, lying on the edge of the bed, breathing lightly, her brow still furrowed. I went out and smoked at the end of the hallway. Outside the window, it was almost dawn, and the rain hadn't stopped. Nicotine burned into my lungs, knocking my head into a bit of confusion. There was an extra daughter, named Nora Johnson, 3 years old, raised alone by Sophia. She looked like she was not doing well, very poorly. After the 3rd cigarette, I went back. Sophia woke up, dipping a cotton swab in water, carefully moistening the child's lips with practiced movements. Go back to sleep, she said without looking up. I'll stay here and watch. You don't have to go to work tomorrow. I'm taking time off. She didn't speak anymore. I pulled a chair over and sat opposite her. The air was silent, broken only by the faint sound of the 4-pump. The child stirred and made a little whimper. She immediately leaned over and patted very gently. Mama is here. Her voice was gentleness made strange. The child fell back asleep. She stayed bent over, not moving for a long time. Dawn had fully come. The rain had slackened to a soft, steady patter. The nurse came to do the rounds and take our temperatures. 37.8, much better. Sophia visibly relaxed her shoulders and said thank you. The nurse glanced at the 2 of us. Child's father, go get something to eat. Adults can't fall apart. I went downstairs and bought breakfast. When I returned, Sophia was washing up in the bathroom, the water gushing. The elderly woman in the same ward smiled at me. Your daughter is so well behaved. She hardly fussed all night. Your wife must be exhausted. She probably didn't sleep a wink, right? I opened my mouth, said nothing. Sophia came out, dark circles under her eyes. She took the porridge and drank slowly. The child woke up, opening his eyes, the whites and blacks clear, looking at me, and then at Sophia, a little timid. "Nora, you're awake?" Still uncomfortable. Sophia set down the porridge, leaned in, her voice soft enough to drip. The child mumbled something under their breath. "What do you want?" "Tell mommy." "Bear." Sophia took an old, nearly worn smooth brown teddy bear out of the bag beside her and shoved it into her arms. The child hugged the bear, quiet, big eyes still staring at me. Sophia followed her gaze to me and pressed her lips together. "Nora, this is—" She stopped, seeming not to know how to introduce me. The child suddenly spoke softly. "Dad." Sophia and I were both stunned. The hospital room fell silent for a moment. "How did you know?" Sophia's voice trembled a little. The child lifted the teddy bear up, hiding their face, only their eyes visible. From the photo, Mom saw the photo. Sophia's profile turned pale and translucent in an instant. She was discharged from the hospital a week later. When settling the bill, another more than $3,000 was charged. I drove back to my place in the Oak Bay neighborhood. "Get off the car." Sophia held the child and followed behind me, her steps hesitant. "Go upstairs. Open the door." I stepped aside. "Come in." She stood there without moving. "The medical bills. I'll pay you back. We'll talk about it later." The room was still the way it had been when I left. The instant noodle cups hadn't been cleared away, and it was a little messy. She stood in the middle of the living room, looking a bit at a loss. The child looked around curiously. "You sleep in the bedroom." I pointed inside. "I'll sleep on the sofa." "No need. The child's just recovered. They can't catch a chill." I interrupted her and tossed the instant noodle cup into the trash. "Turn the hot water to the left. Clean towels are in the cabinet." She held the child and didn't move. "Ethan, we can't live here for free. Then will you pay rent?" I looked at her. Her lips moved, then fell silent. "How much a month?" "Pay me later." I went into the bedroom, shoved the messy clothes into the wardrobe, and changed the sheets and duvet cover for a clean set. "All right." She came out, still standing there. The child was draped over her shoulder, playing with her hair. "I'm going out to buy a few things. Make yourselves at home." I went to the UN supermarket and bought rice, vegetables, meat, eggs, milk, and nutritional paste for the child. Then I went to Shingshan Mall and, by feel, bought a few pieces of clothing and shoes for the child, plus new towels and a toothbrush. I carried the big and small bags back. I opened the door. No one was in the apartment. There was the sound of water in the bathroom. I put the things down in the kitchen. She came out, Sophia carrying the child from the bathroom. The child's hair was wet and was wearing a clean but slightly worn set of clothes. Seeing me, she froze for a moment. "I bought groceries. I'll make something to eat in a bit." "Thank you." She placed the child on the sofa and carefully dried his hair with a towel. I went to the kitchen to wash the rice and cook porridge. While slicing the meat into thin strips, I heard the child giggling softly in the living room. I glanced back. Sophia was tickling her, the corners of her mouth curved in a very slight arc. I hadn't seen her smile in a long time. After dinner, it was dark. I hugged the quilt and put it on the sofa. Sophia finished tidying the kitchen, came out, saw the sofa, and said nothing. I brought my laptop so I can handle some work. She took a very old Dell laptop with a small screen out of that worn backpack. "There's a table in the bedroom." "No need, this is fine." She sat at the other end of the sofa and turned the device on. The child was asleep. The house was very quiet, only the soft sound of her typing. I glanced at my phone to check the news, my mind elsewhere. A little after 10, she closed her laptop and rubbed her eyes. "I'm ready, you go wash up." When I finished and came out, the living room lights were off, only a small wall lamp remained. She was lying on her side on the sofa, facing away from the room, as if asleep. The blanket bulged into a small lump. I turned off the wall lamp and lay down at the other end of the sofa. In the dark, I could hear her breathing, very soft, as if trying to suppress it. There was also the faint sound of a child snoring. Strangeness, and a bit abruptly, lodged itself into my life like a pebble thrown into dead water. Unable to sleep, I turned over. The breathing on the other side stopped immediately. A few seconds later, it rang again. She wasn't asleep either. The next day, I woke up early, my back and waist aching. The sofa was too small. There was noise in the kitchen. Sophia had my apron tied on and was frying eggs. The child sat on a little kitchen stool, holding a teddy bear and watching. Did I wake you? She turned back, a little flustered. Almost ready. It's nothing. Fried egg, plain porridge, and some pickled mustard greens set on the table. Eat. She blew on the porridge for the child to cool it. Ate it all in silence. I washed the dishes while she changed the child's clothes. I have to go to work today, I said. The keys are on the shoe cabinet. Buy whatever you need yourself. I took my wallet, pulled out a stack of cash. About $2,000 or $3,000, and put it on the table. She looked at the money, but didn't take it. Consider a loan, I said. She lowered her head and buttoned the child's clothes. Thank you. I came home from work, and before I even opened the door, I smelled something delicious, the scent of cooking. I opened the door. The child was sitting on the floor playing with a few colorful blocks, the ones the previous landlord had left behind. In the kitchen, Sophia was cooking. 2 dishes were already on the table: green pepper and shredded pork and tomato scrambled eggs. You're back. She turned back, sweat on her brow. Almost done. The child saw me, set down the building blocks, wobbled to his feet, said nothing, just stared. I changed my shoes. Uncle, come eat. Sophia came out carrying the dish. The child spoke softly. Uncle, come eat. Her voice was thin. Yeah. I sat down. 3 dishes and a soup. Tasted. Not bad. After dinner, I washed the dishes. She mopped the floor. The child followed behind her like a little tail. Dragged to my feet. Lift your foot, she said. I lifted my foot. Days passed like this, a little strange, but also somewhat natural. She was no longer so tense. Sometimes I came home late from working overtime. The living room light was on and dishes sat on the table, bowls turned upside down. She sat on the sofa working on her laptop, the child asleep beside her. When she heard the door open, she would look up. Have you eaten? Not yet. The food might be cold. Heat it up. Yeah. I want to heat the dishes. Ate. And she kept working. Occasionally, the child would cry and refuse to sleep. She soothed him in the room, humming softly, the tune indistinct. I lay on the sofa, listening. On the weekend, I went to Shingshan Mall and bought a children's bed. They delivered it to the door. The installer was setting up the bed in the room. She stood at the doorway watching. How much? No need. I cut her off. Leaving it as is fine. Made the bed, tidied the room. The spare bedroom that had been a junk pile actually looked presentable. The child was very happy, rolling on the new bed, hugging a little teddy. Nora's, she announced. Sophia leaned against the doorframe, watching, a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. That night, she insisted the child sleep in the second bedroom. She can sleep on her own now. 3 years old, a bit young, isn't she? Not at all. She spoke firmly. Get used to it. On the child's first night sleeping in the spare bedroom, in the middle of the night, I heard crying. I opened the door and went out. Sophia was already there, holding the child and soothing him softly. Mama's here. Scared. Don't be, little bear is with you. I went to pour a cup of warm water and handed it over. She took it and fed the child 2 sips. Do you want to sleep with us after all? I only said it and then felt that the word us was a bit delicate. She shook her head. She needs to get used to it. The child, tired from crying, fell asleep again. She gently put it back and straightened the quilt. We stepped out of the room. The corridor was very narrow. She smelled of milk, the same scent as the child's. You woke up, she said. It's nothing. A moment of silence. Thank you, she said. Thank me for what? For everything. She didn't look at me, turned back to the bedroom, and the door closed quietly. One day after work, there were 2 large plastic bags left at the door. Inside were the child's old toys, old books, and a few small clothes. Sophia was cooking in the kitchen. From Mrs. Smith next door. She said, her granddaughter is grown up. She doesn't need it anymore. Oh, at dinner, she said to the child. Nora, say thank you to Mrs. Smith. The child nodded. The next day, Mrs. Smith from next door stopped me in the hallway. Ethan, is that your wife and child? I was taken aback for a moment. Yes. You haven't been here before? I used to live in my hometown in a small town. Oh, Mrs. Smith laughed. The child looks like you, especially the eyes. Your wife has had it tough, raising the child by herself and waiting for you all this time. I smiled and didn't explain. On the weekend, I took the child to play on the slide in the complex, and Sophia stayed with us. Mrs. Smith from across the hall was there with her granddaughter too. Nora's dad. Could you help take a photo? Mrs. Smith handed me her phone. I took it and photographed them and the two children. The sun was bright. Sophia looked a little uncomfortable and smoothed her hair. The children were laughing happily. Look here, Nora, I called out. The child turned back and gave a crooked thumbs up. Sophia looked at her and smiled too. I pressed the shutter. That evening, Mrs. Smith sent the photos over. These are really well taken. Sophia looked at the photos and said softly, yeah. She said it as her phone wallpaper. A few days later, I received a delivery, a very large box. I opened it to find new children's bedding printed with little stars, a few new toys, and a set of picture books. The sender was blank. I look at Sophia. She shakes her head. It's not me. The phone rings. It's my mom, Margaret. Did you get the stuff? You sent this? Barbara, who lives next door, is a classmate from my university. My mother's voice was very calm. She said you have a daughter, 3 years old, named Nora Johnson. When are you going home? Bringing the child and her. I watched the child playing with new building blocks and Sophia's face tense up in an instant. Mom, about this. No need to explain. My mom interrupted me. Come home and have a meal first. Let me see my granddaughter. The call ended. Sophia looked at me, her face a little pale. Your mother? Yeah, she knows. Across the way, Barbara. She was her college classmate. Sophia fell silent, her fingers unconsciously picking at the sofa cover. You don't have to go if you don't want to, I said. She was silent for a long time. Nora is her granddaughter. She should go. On the weekend, I drove back to Creek Valley where my parents live. On the way, the child was very excited, riding in a car for so long for the first time. Sophia was very quiet, looking out the window. When we reached the foot of my building, she took a deep breath before getting out of the car. My mother opened the door. Her first glance wasn't at me. Her eyes went straight to Sophia's face, then slid down to the child. Good afternoon, Mrs. Johnson, Sophia said softly. The child hid behind her, clutching a teddy bear and peeking out. Come. My mother said she couldn't read her expression. My dad Richard sat on the sofa and nodded. Seat. The atmosphere was a bit tense. The child asked softly, Mom, who is this? Before Sophia could answer, my mother took out a box and opened it. Inside was a traditional foreign amulet pendant, made of gold. Nora, come here. The child looked up at Sophia, and Sophia gently pushed her. Go to Grandma's. My mom put a pendant on the child and stroked her hair, just like Ethan when he was little. While eating, my mom served Sophia some food. Eat more, you're too thin. Sophia lowered her head. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Call me Mom. My mom said. Sophia froze with her chopsticks midair. My dad cleared his throat. Eat first. After dinner, my mom took the child to play with a newly bought doll. My dad and I were on the balcony. What's going on? He asked. It was like that. 3 years old. You didn't know before? I don't know. He glanced at me. What do you plan to do? I haven't decided yet. She raised the child alone for 3 years, my dad said, lighting a cigarette. That's not easy. Don't treat her poorly. When we left, my mom handed Sophia a red envelope. It was thick. Mrs. Johnson, you can't. Take it. My mother pressed down her hand. Buy something for the child. She looked at me again. Come back often when you have time. The car drove far away. Sophia still held that red envelope, looking out the window. The child, worn out from playing, fell asleep in the back seat. Your mother is very nice, she said abruptly. Yeah. Silence. The streetlights slid across the inside of the car in streaks. Ethan, she paused for a long time. What is this between us now? Days slipped away like water, seeping into sand, silently sinking downward. Sophia found a job as a cashier at Levaillan supermarket, a few stops from home. I went to work during the day. She took the child to the nearby community daycare, picked them up after work, then cooked and waited by the door. Sometimes I worked late. When I came home, the living room light was on and the dishes were covered on the table. She wasn't in the living room, and there was no light under the door of the second bedroom, probably asleep. A few coins lay on the coffee table. They were what was left after buying groceries. I didn't move. That day I got off work early and passed by that Levaillan supermarket. The storefront was small, the shelves cramped and close together. She stood behind the register, wearing an ill-fitting dark red uniform, her head bowed as she scanned items. Her hair was tied up carelessly, stray strands hanging at her neck. A customer had bought too many things. A plastic bag handle snapped, and the items spilled everywhere. She hurried around, crouched down, and began picking them up. Someone was urging, "Hurry up, what are you doing?" She didn't speak. Flustered, she stuffed things into a new bag, sweat at her temples. I walked in. She was about to hand the heavy bag to a customer. I took it. "I'll go." She saw me and froze. "What are you?" I said nothing and handed the bag to the man whose face was full of impatience. The man muttered and left. She stood in place, her fingers rubbing the hem of her work uniform. "Not off yet?" I asked. Half an hour left. I'll wait for you outside." I stood at the supermarket entrance smoking. When the cigarette was nearly finished, she came out, her work uniform gone, wearing her old coat. "Where's Nora?" "The daycare aunt is watching her. I'll pick her up in a bit." Walking side by side, no words. To the daycare, pick up the child. The child hurled himself at her legs and hugged them. "Mom." Seeing me, she added in a quieter voice, "Uncle." At home, she cooked while I played with the child and the newly bought puzzle. The child put the pieces in the wrong place, got anxious, and hummed. I took one down for her. "Try this one." She looked up at me. "Thank you, Uncle." She asked at the dinner table. "Not busy today?" "Not bad. From now on, don't go to the supermarket anymore." The hand she was using to pick up food froze. "What's wrong?" "Long commute, little money, standing too long." I asked about Nora's daycare fees too. They could be paid quarterly, a bit cheaper. She kept her head down eating, didn't reply. That night, after I finished showering and came out, she was sitting on the sofa, her laptop closed. "Ethan, money. I worked it out. The supermarket pay is low, but it can help a bit. Daycare fees, living expenses, rent. You can't pay for everything. I still haven't paid you back the medical bills. We'll talk about it later." I wiped my hair. "That job drains people too much." "You've fallen. What about Nora?" She was silent. A few days later, she stopped going to the supermarket and started taking on some translation gigs, her old trade. Leaning over the coffee table, facing that old Dell laptop, she sat for most of the evening. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and see the living room lights still on. The screen light falls on her profile. She looks very focused. When the child turns over, she immediately minimizes the window and gets up to check, moving quietly. Autumn comes, and the rain starts falling more often. The child has a bit of a cough again, not serious, but sleeps restlessly at night and always needs to be held. Sophia walks around the room, holding him, humming. I pushed open the spare bedroom door. "I'll take him." She shook her head. "You still have work tomorrow." "It's nothing." I took the child in my arms, a small bundle, curled against me, her head nuzzling my shoulder, breathing with a little wheeze, a bit warm. I touched her forehead. "It seems to have a fever again." Sophia took the thermometer, 38.2 degrees. Gave water, did physical cooling. Fussed until the middle of the night. The temperature went down a bit. The child is asleep, put back in bed. Sophia slumps in the chair by the bedside, her face weary. "Go to sleep." I said, "I'll stay and watch." She didn't insist and went back to the master bedroom. I leaned against the child's bed. Looking at that little face, my breathing evened out. In the latter half of the night, a chill seeped in. I gave a start and woke up. There was a thin blanket added over me. Sophia sat beside me, also awake, watching the child. "Did I wake you?" she asked softly. No, dawn was coming. A gray-white light filtered through the curtains. Was it like this before? I asked. When she was sick. She softly responded, Once she had rosella, and her fever reached 40 degrees. I carried her to the hospital by myself, couldn't hail a cab, and we walked for a long time. She vomited all over me on the way. I was on an 4-drip in the hospital for 3 days. I didn't sleep a wink. Her voice was flat, without inflection, as if she were talking about someone else. At that time I kept thinking, if only you had been there. She stopped, not continuing. I could hear the early bus passing by outside. Go to sleep, she said. It's almost dawn. My college classmates were having a reunion. I never used to go to these, but somehow this time I agreed. The private room was noisy, the smell of smoke and alcohol mixed with grilled meat. Someone tapped my shoulder. Ethan, not bad. I heard you have a daughter? You hid that well. When did that happen? I never heard you got married. What does your wife do? Bring her out so we can meet her. I took a gulp of beer. Maybe later. Olivia Davis, a former classmate who once asked me out, sat opposite, smiling as she sized me up. It's hard to imagine what kind of father you'll be. Just like that. Are you strict with the child? You used to have a bad temper. Not bad. When the event ended, someone who drunk too much looped an arm around my neck. Bro, seriously, back then Sophia, you two were such a shame. Such a beautiful girl. She was so devoted to you. What happened later? How did you split up? I forgot. I shoved them into a taxi and walked back by myself. The night wind was cool, giving me a headache. When I got home, someone was standing at the door, a slender shadow. It was Sophia. She was wearing a coat, as if about to go out. Why are you standing here? You didn't pick up when I called. She said, Nora has a slight fever. We're out of fever medicine at home. I went out to buy some and forgot my keys. I fumbled for my phone, several missed calls. Did you buy it? Yeah. She was holding a box of medicine. I'll go take a look. The child was sleeping fitfully, his forehead a bit warm, but not feverish. I wrung out the towel and wiped her forehead and hands and feet. Sophia stood to the side. Is the reunion fun? She asked unexpectedly. Just like that. Did you run into someone you know? Yeah. Did Olivia leave? I stopped moving. Olivia was that classmate. She left. Oh, she didn't ask again. I tucked the child's quilt neatly. Later she asked me how we split things. Sophia looked at the child. Her profile was somewhat blurred under the nightlight. What do you mean? I forgot. She let out a very soft laugh. It's kind of hard to remember. At that time, I was too young. I said. She didn't reply. After a long while, I thought she wouldn't speak again. Ethan. If back then, I hadn't left or I had told you. Her voice was very low, almost a whisper. Would things have been different? I didn't answer. She didn't seem to expect an answer either. She turned and walked out. Go to sleep. The door closed softly. I was on a 3-day business trip and returned in the afternoon. I opened the door. No one was home. On the bed in the spare room, the child's little Teddy lay there all alone. There was a note weighing down the coffee table. Took Nora to Oak Bay Community Hospital to get vaccinated, back soon. The handwriting was a bit messy. I put down my luggage and took a shower. When I came out, I heard the sound of the door opening and a child's giggle. Mom, gently. It tickles. Sophia held the child, pressing her forehead to the child's forehead, smiling as she dodged. When she saw me, her smile faltered. You're back. Yeah. The child slid off my lap and ran to play with toys. Sophia put down her bag and went to the kitchen to pour water. Did it go well? Not bad. She leaned against the sink drinking water, her profile thin. Did she cry when she got the shot? No, she just twice. Better than you, she said suddenly. I looked at her. You used to look as pale as paper when they drew blood at school. I even had to help you carry your bag. Did I? Yes. A corner of her mouth lifted, then quickly smoothed out. Like a lake into which a stone had been thrown, the ripples faded and calm returned. That evening, she cooked a few dishes, spicy diced chicken and boiled sliced pork in spicy broth. These are all things I used to love to eat before. They have strong flavors. The chili at the supermarket was on sale. She explained, so I bought a bit more. While we were eating, The child was overwhelmed by the spice, sticking out their tongue and panting. She hurriedly poured water. "Mom, it's spicy." Sorry. I forgot to make you a non-spicy one." She was a bit annoyed. "It's nothing," I said, and picked up a pair of chopsticks with some chicken. "The taste hasn't changed." Her motion of scooping rice paused for a moment. "Is that so?" "Yeah." After the meal, she washed the dishes while I did puzzles with the child. The child couldn't fit the pieces, acted up, and pushed the puzzle aside. "I'm not playing anymore." "What do you want to play then?" "Ride a horse." Her eyes shone as she looked at me. I was stunned. Sophia peeked from the kitchen. "Nora, don't be rude." The child pouted. "You bent over." "Come up." The child cheered, climbed onto my back, and wrapped small arms around my neck. "Hold on." I carried her piggyback and crawled around the living room once. She was very light, her laughter ringing in my ears. Sophia stood in the kitchen doorway watching, her hands wiping her apron, saying nothing. Her eyes showed a mix of emotions. The child was tired from playing and was leaning against my back, nearly asleep. I put her back in the small bed and tucked the blanket around her. Outside, Sophia was still standing there. "Thank you," she said. "It's nothing." Silence stretched between them. "She hasn't been this happy in a long time." Sophia said softly, "You can stay with her more often from now on." I said. She glanced up at me once, then looked down again. The weather had gotten fully cold. The heating hadn't come on yet, and the room felt a bit gloomy. Sophia's old Dell laptop had completely died. The screen was black, and it wouldn't respond no matter how she pressed it. She stared at the computer for a while, said nothing, then got up to do the laundry. The water gushed loudly. The next day after work, I brought home a new laptop, a slim model, and set it on the table. She saw it and froze. "Here you go," I said. "You can't stop taking translation jobs." She looked at the box and didn't move. "Too expensive. Deduct it from the rent," I said. She rubbed her fingers on her apron, then carefully opened the box. She took out the laptop, a silver case, very shiny. "Thank you." Her voice was very soft. "Try it." She plugged it in, powered it on. The screen lit up, the light reflecting in her eyes. "It'll be quick," she said, her fingers sliding across the touchpad. Much faster than that. The child ran over and curiously touched the screen. "Mom, it's pretty." Pretty." She looked up at me. "Really? Thank you." It was nothing. At night, I got up to drink some water. Light slipped under the door of the secondary bedroom. I pushed the door open. She was sitting at the small desk, facing a new computer. The screen was filled with dense foreign language documents. "Not asleep yet." She turned back, a little embarrassed. "Finish this bit and then sleep. Don't stay up too late." "Got it." When I closed the door, I heard her hum a song very softly. The melody was somewhat familiar. It was the tune she used to hum when she stayed up late working on drafts. Weekend, a rare sunny day. Took the child to Maple Leaf Park. The leaves turned yellow and fell all over the ground, crunching underfoot. The child ran ahead, chasing pigeons. Sophia followed behind, calling for her to slow down. I walked at the back. The sunshine made everyone feel lazy. The child fell on the grass, didn't cry, got up by himself, brushed off the dirt, and kept running. Sophia exhaled in relief, looked back at me, and smiled. There were fine lines at the corner of her eyes that hadn't been there before. Eating the sandwich I brought on a park bench at noon. The child nibbled the bread, watching others fly kites. "Mom, a kite. A kite. Can we release them too?" "Next time," Sophia said. "I didn't bring any today." The child was a little disappointed, but was soon distracted by a butterfly that flew by. Sophia handed me the water bottle. "Drink some water." I took it. There was a faint lipstick mark on the bottle's mouth. She didn't used to like wearing lipstick. Now it seems she still doesn't often wear it, unless she's going out. "What are you looking at?" she asked. "Nothing." I twisted off the bottle cap and drank. The water was warm. In the afternoon, the child got tired from playing and fell asleep in the stroller. We slowly made our way back, our shadows stretched long. "It's been a long time since I've gone out like this," she said. "Yeah." Nora is very happy. "What about you?" She turned her head to look at me. "What? Are you happy?" I thought for a moment. "Not bad." She smiled faintly and didn't ask again. At the building, she carried the child upstairs first. I parked the car. When I went back, I heard her talking on the phone on the balcony, her voice hushed. I'll find a way to get the money. Give me a little more time. Mom, I know. I stepped back a few paces and knocked on the door again. The voice inside fell silent. She came to open the door, her expression as usual. The food's ready. While we ate, her phone lit up a few times. They were all text messages. She didn't look at them and just turned them off. Something wrong? I asked. No, just selling something. She tucked a piece of egg onto the child's plate. Hurry up and eat. It rained heavily through the night. I was awakened by thunder. Then I heard the secondary bedroom door open and the faint sound of a child crying. I got up. Sophia was already there, holding the child. The thunder woke me up. The child huddled in her arms, sobbing. Daddy. The voice was very soft, lost in the sound of the rain. Sophia and I both paused for a moment. Daddy. The child mumbled again, burying her face in Sophia's chest. Sophia patted her back, looked at me, her expression a little complicated. You walked over. Let me. The child wriggled, reached out for me to hold them, very naturally. I took them into my arms. She hugged my neck and sobbed softly. Scared? Don't be. Grandfather Thunder is beating the drum. I walked around the room holding her, humming an off-key song. Sophia leaned against the doorframe watching. When the rain eased, the child fell asleep. I gently put him back in bed and tucked the blanket around him. Sophia was still standing there. She called you Daddy. She said, yeah. You said yes. Yeah. In the dark, I couldn't make out her expression. Only the sound of rain and our breathing. Go to sleep, she said. When she turned, her shoulder brushed my arm very lightly. My mom called again. Next weekend is your dad's birthday. Come back for a meal. Bring Nora and Sophia. I related. Sophia was cutting potatoes. The knife paused. Okay. She resumed cutting, the shreds very fine. Should I bring anything? No, just go. On the weekend, I went to the Star Mall. She spent a long time choosing a wool sweater for my dad and a silk scarf for my mom. I don't know if it's suitable. She felt a little uneasy. It's fine. On my dad's birthday, quite a few relatives came to the house. The child was being stared at, a little timid, constantly pulling on Sophia's hand. Eyes like Ethan, nose like his mother, delicate. Sophia forced a smile, playing along. When we were eating, my mom served Sophia some food. Eat more. You seem to have lost weight again recently. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Still calling me Mrs. Johnson? My mom looked at her. Sophia froze mid-chopstick. Everyone at the table was watching. The child looked up in a babyish voice. Mom, Grandma wants you to call her Mom. The whole table laughed. Sophia's ears flushed a little. Mom. Her voice was very quiet. My mom smiled and gave her another piece of fish with her chopsticks. All right. On the way back, the child was tired and fell asleep in the back seat. Sophia looked out the window. Your mother is very nice. Yeah. Thank you for today. For what? It didn't embarrass me. I turned my head to look at her. She still looked out the window as the neon light skimmed her profile. The things from before, she said softly, are all in the past. I didn't answer. The car drove downstairs and stopped. She didn't get out right away. Ethan, can maybe... She took a breath, as if gathering her courage. Start over. It was quiet in the car. You could hear the child's steady breathing. I looked at her. She looked at me too, her eyes shining startlingly in the darkness. There was anticipation and there was fear, just like years ago when she first told me she liked me. Okay, I said. Her eyes reddened all at once. She turned her face away, her shoulders trembling slightly. I reached out and took her hand. It was cold. She trembled, but didn't pull away. Instead, she turned her hand over and gripped my fingers tightly, hard enough that her knuckles whitened. The days seemed much the same, and yet everything felt different. She no longer slept in the spare bedroom. At night, there was an extra set of breathing and warmth beside me. Sometimes when I woke up in the middle of the night and saw her sleeping profile, I would feel a little disoriented, as if dreaming. The child officially started calling me Dad, very naturally, as if it had always been that way. On weekends, we took her to the amusement park. She sat on the carousel while we stood below watching. Music played as the carousel rose and fell. The child waved at us, smiling happily. Sophia leaned against me, her head gently resting on my shoulder. Like a dream, she said. I wrapped my arms around her waist. Not a dream. We left the amusement park. The child was asleep, and I carried him on my back. She walked beside me, holding the half-eaten cotton candy the child had left. The setting sun stretched our shadows long. Ethan, if only I had come sooner. She didn't finish speaking. It's not too late, I said. She stopped walking and looked at me. There was a light in her eyes, softness so overwhelming it was almost unreal. Not late. I went home and opened the door. The entryway light was a warm yellow. She changed her shoes. When she bent over, a small mole at the nape of her neck appeared and disappeared with the movement. I remembered it before. It's still there now, like some kind of mark. The child woke up, rubbing his eyes and asking for water. She went to pour the water. I watched her busy back, wearing an apron, her hair loosely tied up. She has always been the mistress of this house. At night, she nestles in my arms, her fingers unconsciously tracing the buttons of my pajamas. The translation job finished quickly. The payment was not small. Yeah, I want to repaint the spare bedroom. Nora likes pale yellow. Okay. And also, she looked up, her eyes sparkling. Shouldn't we go get a marriage certificate? I lowered my head and kissed her forehead. I'll listen to you. She smiled, burying her face in my chest, her voice muffled. Ethan, yeah, don't lose me again this time. No,